Taylor, thank you for that. We are approaching the November election, and leading up to Decision Day on November 4th, we're inviting the three candidates for Buffalo Mayor to join us live here on Voices so you can hear directly from them. And so far, Michael Gaynor has taken us up on that offer. Now, he tried to run in the Democratic primary for mayor, but a technicality kept him off the ballot. He is running now as an independent of sorts on the Restore Buffalo party line. He's lived here since 2005, founding Buffalo Reuse, and he's active with the East Side Parkways Coalition, which we will also talk about here in just a few minutes. And Michael Gaynor joins us live here on Voices tonight. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Michael.
We're approaching crunch time, right?
Sure is. It's
early voting starts this Saturday. The biggest issue, it seems most would agree right now in the city of Buffalo, and especially in this race, is finances. Buffalo facing a multi-million-dollar deficit. There are lots of questions about what we do to shore up the city's fiscal situation. What is your plan to address that on day one should you win?
Well, the plan first on day one is to really figure out what's going on at City Hall. And I've already started that process by doing my research, talking to people at City Hall, figuring out what the needs are of each department, but also looking at the numbers and trying to determine where we can find some savings and where there's cost overlap and where we can draw on some other resources and invite more people to the table to make our capacity to meet all of these expenses more of a reality. So it's a big picture vision, but and it's going to take a lot of diligence, and it's going to take a lot of attention to detail, and it's going to take putting together a world-class team, which is where I've really leaned in to my strengths as an independent, is bringing as many people to the table that can lend credibility and some wisdom and perspective into that process, because I don't see this as a one-person team. I see this as multiple people at the table.
There's been a lot of discussion about raising property taxes, about finding other ways to bring in more revenue. But what about the spending side? Does the city of Buffalo spend too much money, and where can you find savings? Is it in police and fire overtime? Is it in, cutting back services? That's always tricky with voters trying to cut services. It is tricky, and I'll tell you, the evaluation that I have, it's multifaceted, and I think that we do have to look at the spending side and the revenue side. I've been concerned about how the tax burden has influenced taxpayers throughout the city. I'm concerned about how it's been inequitably distributed, burdening more of our residents on the east side and the west side in the most recent assessments, both in 2019 and then in most recent years. So we have to look at how we're taxing people and have it be more equitable and fair for the people that live in this city, because a lot of people are really feeling the crunch. But on the spending side, we're going to go department by department. We're going to talk to industry experts. We're going to talk to people that have been working at City Hall for years. We're going to talk to people that were previous commissioners and leaders of those departments. We're going to be talking to people that are doing the work every day on the ground. And we're going to figure out where we can save money. But we have to also look at the county and at the state as partners. They deliver a lot of vital services here in our city. And we're going to ask them to be larger players here in the city of Buffalo as we address those vital needs. And it's going to be a team-centered approach. When we talked to you at a candidate forum before the Democratic primary, you talked about why you're running for mayor. I mentioned before the Kensington project. You're with the East Side Parkways Coalition. Here's a little bit about what you told us about representing the people of Buffalo. I want to play this.
I am eager to give voice and access and opportunity to my neighbors and to the folks here, the youth that I've worked for, my employees, and all of the residents of Buffalo.
What to do with the Kensington Expressway is one of the big issues. I know folks are very passionate on both sides of this. What do you say to the folks who believe that if we were going to get $1 billion for a massive infrastructure project, that we should have taken advantage of it and move forward with this?
Well, I say that if we're going to make that kind of investment, it better pay dividends for us for years to come. And unfortunately, the first thing is East Side Parkways didn't hold up this process. They didn't hold up the money. They didn't hold up the project getting started. Our state leaders and our leaders at the Department of Transportation held it up by not doing their due diligence, not performing an appropriate environmental review. And that led us as community members to have to rise up, organize, retain counsel, and fight the DOT and compel them to follow New York state law. That's my job as a leader, to ensure that we're doing our due diligence, to make sure that we're balancing our budgets, that we're holding our commissioners to account, to make sure that we're staying within the confines of our budget. And when we have a big visionary project like the Kensington Expressway, to make sure we get it right. A project that pays dividends. I want a project that's going to help us be a more vital city that is going to stimulate economic investment along those radial corridors, that's going to reconnect our communities and parks, and that's going to maintain the vehicular capacity for our communities and our surrounding suburban areas. Trust me, I don't want to hurt the commute from our suburban customers and business owners and employees that come and rely on the downtown corridor and businesses for their employment opportunities. I want to actually make that a better experience by beautifying our commercial corridors, by having those commercial corridors lined with businesses that create economic vitality and jobs and economic activity along those routes that they're going to be now traveling. And then I'm going to invite them in to see a landscape treasure that's fully restored in our Humboldt Parkway, where they can participate and see parks and festivals, you know, and ride their bike from Science Museum to the zoo. You know, that's the way that it was. That's how it was envisioned by Frederick Law Olmsted, and that's the reality that we can have again if we choose right leadership that's going to compel the DOT to make the right choice and put those dollars where they're needed most. I think what a lot of your listeners forget about is that we have to do something with the Kensington Expressway.
Yeah, the status quo is not a popular one.
It's not an option to do nothing, right? Because some people will say that. That option will cost us more, and I want to see that investment pay us dividends in the future.
We have invited Mr. Gaynor's two other competitors onto the show. We'll see if they take us up on that offer. But Michael Gaynor, candidate for Buffalo Mayor, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Michael.